What is MetFix?
It is the best of CrossFit when CrossFit is about working out for health and good form mechanics like what we do here, but a huge emphasis on health. We are the evolution of the revolution. It is our mission to cure or control chronic disease and illness. Like we want to be the ones to heal you when medicine tells you you just need a Band-Aid for your symptom. So to be a part of that on a larger scale, what I've been doing here for like 5-6 years is mind blowing. No, but I think people are afraid to do hard things. And because you chose to do something hard at 63, that fall and broken ribs didn't break you in your 70s. And what you're doing in your 70s is going to keep you moving in your 80s and 80s to 90s. And like, this is what we're talking about, right? Like, that's why one of the many reasons why you're exceptional and people should be watching this and like put down the bowl of Rice Krispie treats and get up and go exercise and do something.
I'm looked at, and then I got someone like you who's like, you didn't know how to lift when you got here, right?
No.
You just stepped in,
Yeah.
and you just started doing it and learning, and getting better and better, and sticking to it, and it changed your life.
What I'm telling clients is when people aren't buying, is when you should buy, right? Because when the market changes, right? Let's say all the tariffs things gets resolved, right? The stock market starts booming, right? Then people are flush with cash, then everyone will start buying. And then you can get bidding wars up very, very quick.
And then you'll end up possibly paying more.
Paying more for the same house because you waited. Versus if you try to buy a house when no one's competing against you, that's where you can get it at list price or even negotiate less.
Yeah.
Right? And then rates will always come down, and then you can refinance and get the lower rates.
That makes perfect sense.
So what's interesting is once I did the last set of blood work, I ordered my own blood work, so I'll never get it through the doctor, right? To see if the insulin resistance had been reversed. My fasting insulin was 3.1. I was like, that's low. That's fantastic. So it's not that I changed anything. I feel like the stress and the worry from, oh my God, I'm, menopause, perimenopause coming back and insulin resistance, and that's going to fuck me up. Like, I don't want to be diabetic. I don't want another autoimmune disease. So there was relief in that. And then there was a switch, like my whole life, because like we had talked about in our earlier episodes, when you're fat and made fun of for a lot of your childhood, teenage years on and off throughout life, like you just want to look decent so that people stop shit talking you. And so then it was like, this is really always about health. And I've missed that in my quest to not feel picked on, right? So I just want to be my best self. So I think it was just the excitement of healing myself yet again, right? Helping others through that, making it about my health always. And then my body's like, bonus, here's your, new size, back in the new weight category. Like it just happened. But again, it's just because when you take care of the inside, the outside reflects that eventually if you stay the course.
I'm down easily 30 pounds. I've dropped 2 pant sizes. So I was pushing like a 38. I'm a 34. I haven't been a 34 since high school.
What?
So the physical change has been awesome. It's been amazing.
What was the initial urge that caused you to make such a large change? Like this is East to West Coast.
Yeah.
Different wife, different life. Kids. Like those are big things that we're doing here.
Well,
what causes that?
It's at a certain point in your life, you reflect upon yourself and find out what everyone. This happens a lot to people, and I did too. In my early 50s, I started to think about where I was, what I was doing. I still felt I had time left to do more, and what would that be? And I'd already been doing this for a way longer time than I expected to. When I started out, I figured that I'd be there for doing that for a few years, and then it turned into several decades. So it was kind of time for something else, and in my mind, and I also realized that I hadn't necessarily been listening to myself as much as I should. And that was really the essence of it.
The reason we have hundreds of thousands of patients who are successful on Unfiltered is because we have the coach provider, right? So the way we think about this is, essentially how can we build? So the treatment is delivered digitally. You have an app, and then you interact with the coach or the provider through the app. Sometimes there's phone calls, but most of it is through the app. And then we give you a kit when you start. So the kit has like a scale and a glucose meter, a ketone meter, and a bunch of other things that come with it. And so that's how we know whether you're making progress or not, right? Based on food changes. Because glucose is a good indicator, but it's a lagging indicator, right? Like A1C is a lagging indicator that you will know 3 months after you make a change to your eating habits. Your weight and your ketones primarily will be immediate. Like you will immediately see an impact to your ketones and your weight.
Here is a part of the story that hopefully most of you guys may not have caught, but I'll tell you esoteric of what else is taking place here by this level of confidence. So we always say confidence leads to wealth, and nobody seems to understand how that even happened. I'll explain how confidence leads to wealth because she just told you guys how. Because she's so confident in who she is, every time she's out in public, she sees opportunities as a way to add value to people's lives. And that only comes up when you're confident in who you are and what you do. And you can look at an individual and see what frequency they're on. And know I could get you on an even higher one if you knew what I knew. And that is how people who are highly confident are also adding large amounts of money to their pocketbook. It isn't like the money just coming randomly. It's because there's value given every time they open their mouth. Anytime that she speaks, it's value. Anyone she goes up to, it's helping. And the universe has to reciprocate that some way. That value has to come back to her.
I was told I was never going to have kids. I was told I was never going to drive a car. I couldn't swim by myself, things like that, because they just were. If I went into a seizure, it could be really detrimental. After a year of doing research and figuring out where exactly my seizures were coming from and being able to isolate it, they did brain surgery when I was 14. And that ever since I haven't had seizures. I'm totally comfortable talking about it because it was such a success story. And I'm really passionate, obviously, about helping people understand that when you're told that you are always going to be a certain way, that you are going to struggle with this health condition your entire life, that's not always the final answer. There's always options out there, whether it's just learning how to do what you can, or whether it eventually leads you to how lucky I was and being able to correct the thing entirely, right?
So I think I kind of see what we're doing as in parallel. That we're these special people, these special skills to go out into the local community here, outside of your four walls, and say and recruit all these people around, saying, "Hey, this is how we can eat. This is how we can move. Train yourselves this way, so you can now enact that same effect on their schools and their churches and their workplaces." So they spread that message out even more. So those people who you're face to face with every day, they get to take that message on to their other communities they're part of. And I see that, yeah, we're just doing the same thing. We're conducting unconventional warfare and teaching people how to truly eat and truly fight chronic disease, right?
One night I had actually decided that I was going to take my own life. I had a Glock. It was in my closet. I put it to my head and I pulled the trigger, and I got so excited that I was going to take my own life and be with Jody. And that night I decided to go out and celebrate because I finally had a plan. I went out drinking. I partied by myself so hard, and I got a DUI. Got a DUI that night. Went to jail, and later that afternoon, there was a voicemail on my phone, and it said, "Jeremiah, this is Megan from Wounded Warrior Project." And in 2011 is when I realized I was no longer alone, because I had met men and women that weekend, some that were injured far worse than me, but many, or all, that had served and sacrificed and knew what it was like to lose friends and lose a career, based off of their time in Iraq or Afghanistan. And that moment I credit with saving my life and putting me on a path to find fitness through physical health and wellness.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that whether you're buying for yourself or you're buying an investment, it's all the same. You want property values to increase. You want, if it's a rental, you want rents to increase, and that's going to happen in stable environments, right? In cities where people are moving in and living and want to be. I personally like cities that have kind of more of that family environment because you get kind of more stable tenants, right? You get the families who care about their credit and care about the home and will take care of it, things like that. So, schools are a big part of that. So that's a big part of it.
Now I'll fast forward to a different leadership time when I went to Daly City, and the chief there now, he was all about CrossFit, like to the point where he had his L1. Like that was something that he modeled it. You'd see him in the morning in the gym, working out 6 a.m. every morning, leading by example, seeing other officers come in, challenging them to workouts, writing workouts on the board for other officers to do so they could see what he did. Exactly.
That's the moneymaker or the deal breaker. And I think no one talks about this, right? Yeah.
So I was going to agree with Lori to the T right there is number one. When you're looking for your personal trainer, if they don't have a base in their program where you talk about food and health, that to me should be a red flag. Yeah. Because me and Lori, with our time in this industry, she's been in it longer than me, but I'm coming up on almost 6 years. Yeah. And in that time, I know nothing happens unless we first talk about what are you eating.
They go, yeah, I started this thing called CrossFit. And really, right after that, the next day, I joined CrossFit. And then I started because I was playing basketball at a church, and it was like, it was like a bunch of guys. So it was like, skins versus shirts, right? And I remember I was playing basketball with this one guy who was a little chubby, and he was all right. Then he disappeared for a couple months, and then he came back. And then when we were doing shirts and skins again, he was skin, so he took off his shirt, and he was ripped.
Oh,
and I was like, dude, like, what happened? Like, within a couple months, right? So he said, yeah, I started this thing called CrossFit. And really, right after that, the next day, I joined CrossFit. Because I saw the transformation so quickly. It's like, if you go every day and you do the hardest stuff early in the morning, then the rest of the day becomes easy, right? So, like, I remember I was talking to one of my partners at work, and he says, Kwok, you know what? Like, your career is really taking off. And I can tell you the biggest thing is, I think it's the CrossFit. Because it just mentally challenges you to just overcome and be consistent and just push over hurdles. So, and it makes you overcome anything that you're scared of, right? So I know that physically I've become stronger, but I think mentally it's probably bigger.
Once I hit like puberty, I would have about 14 seizures a day. Oh my God. So I couldn't go to school, and then they're trying to give you different medications to try to control it, but your internal chemistry is just like this, right? Yeah. And so it's a moving target. And so eventually they started doing a little research to find out if I was eligible for surgery to correct it. After a year of doing research and figuring out where exactly my seizures were coming from and being able to isolate it, they did brain surgery when I was 14. And that ever since I haven't had seizures. So it was very much like I was kind of freed of this burden, Yeah.
Maybe you need to weigh what's important to you. Like,
no, absolutely. And I was going to say that that's the difference between where you are and where most are. This is the point, what I like to call like the chapter 50 of a fitness journey.
Yeah.
Of someone who's gone through multiple ups and downs, multiple testing, multiple trying, all these different avenues. And when you hit a certain point to where you are so in touch with your mind and your body that you're right, it's not worth ever sacrificing. Like it just doesn't outweigh how good you feel, but you'd have never reached this point if you hadn't gone down this road. This takes a very special person to get to a point where food doesn't control them. Food controls most people more than they know. And so once you actually break through to the point where you feel so good in your skin and you know what causes you not to, it's like, why would you keep slicing your wrist with these fucking cheat meals, this junk food, this poison, all these things? It's not worth it.
That's not.
So and this, so you guys work with clients, they have to make one change in their life and they'll see great, results, right? You know what I mean? Just, watching what they eat, right? You'll see them lose, tons of weight, and you see this massive change. And then it starts slowing down and starts tapering off. And I was trying to present that in a way for our youth to understand that, hey, you guys showing up here, is just the start of your guys' journey, right? If you ever have any aspirations to be amazing at what you do, you're going to have to yield a lot more effort. But just to start the process of thinking that, oh, okay, I feel like I'm doing a lot of work and I'm doing enough, but there's more to it, right? There's a lot more that I could be doing that will help me for whatever goals that I want.
So, slim fast, laxatives, intermittent throwing up, starving, like that was 7th grade. And then the shittiest part about that is everyone's like, you look amazing. What are you doing? And then you're reinforcing this eating disorder.
So let's
pull that apart.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
There's one lady, actually, I'll give you one quick case study. So Mary, she started sometime after that April timeframe last year. And then she tells me at one point in November, when I held one of my first nutrition lectures, her HbA1c was measured at 12.2. And then her taking on the nutrition strategies, the prescription we're giving her, and then taking a couple times of class a week. It was like early last month, she told me that her A1C dropped to 7.8.